viewer, thank you very much. Keep those suggestions coming. And she asked me about tinking back through increases and decreases in her work. And tink is the word knit backwards, and tink is what we say when we're unraveling to get back to correct a mistake in the same row, and it's a way of unraveling one stitch at a time so you don't have any live stitches dropping down columns, etc., etc. It's a very safe way to go back and to correct a mistake. Not the ideal way to go back if your mistake is several rows down, but if you just have a few stitches, it's good. And straight up tinking through knit stitches or purl stitches is really pretty easy, but it gets more complicated when we're talking about increases and decreases. So I'm going to show you how to do that and what to look for. Let's go ahead and take a look. In this first sample, I have increases, and let's go ahead and start out with some normal knit stitch tinking. I'm going to put my left needle into the stitch below, pull that stitch over to left needle and tug the working yarn. You can see I'm unraveling stitches as I go. Okay, the first increase that I'm going to unravel is a yarn over, and a yarn over is just kind of a wrap on the stitch like this. It leaves a hole in the work. It's really easy to tink back through a yarn over. In fact, I'm leaving the stitch after the yarn over on there because this is the only thing holding the yarn over in place. Once I tink this stitch, the yarn over kind of falls apart. There's nothing to it. I'll show you that again. So there goes the yarn over. That was an easy one to tink back through. So now I'll do one more, and the next one I'm coming up against is a KFB, and that's worked with knitting into the front loop of the stitch and then into the back loop of the stitch. It is a way of making two stitches out of one. And if we take a close look at this KFB here, you'll see that we have a normal knit stitch and then a funny looking little purl stitch. And this is the knit through the back loop part of the stitch. If we just let this funny little purl stitch fall off the end of the needle, this becomes a normal knit stitch tink. I'll show you what I mean. I'm just going to let that first loop fall off the needle, give the working yarn a tug, and then the second half of the stitch is just a normal knit tink. Plain knit stitch. I'll show you that again. Just let that first one fall off the needle, then we have a normal knit tink. Now the next two stitches I have to show you are make one stitches, and they are made with the bar between two stitches. You put the bar up on the left needle and then either knit it through the back loop or the front loop, depending if you're doing make one right or make one left. And these are actually really easy to tink also because they're not made using a stitch, they're made between stitches. If we take a close look at this, let me set this down. If we follow this column of stitches up, we have the stitch on the needle here, and right next to it we follow this column of stitches up and we have the stitch over here, and then this stitch doesn't have a column of stitches underneath. This stitch was created right here, and if we let it go there's nothing more to unravel. That was easy. A regular knit tink, and then we have another make one. I'm just going to let that fall off the end of the needle, no problem. And those are all the increases that we have to tink back through. And now I'll show you how to work back through some of these decreases, which is a little bit more complicated. First, I'll start out with some normal knit tinking. And the first stitch that I'm going to come up against is a knit two together. And you see, look closely here, we have two stitches decreased down into this one stitch here on the needle. And all I have to do is sort of an exaggerated normal tink. I'm going to put my needle in through two stitches. You see here I've grabbed two and then give the working yarn a tug, and both stitches end up on the left needle. Knit two togethers are easy, pretty fun too. Go through two stitches. There we go, two stitches live on the needle. And here's where it gets a little bit trickier. This next one is an SSK, slip, slip, knit. Well, actually, let me show you this real quick. The knit two together is worked by knitting two stitches together like that. SSK is worked where we slip a stitch as if to knit, slip a stitch as if to knit, and then knit those two stitches together through the back loop. And the reason that the SSK is more complicated is because we've twisted the stitches. So you can't just put your needle in there and have them just jump back on the left needle correctly. So I'm actually going to drop that stitch, give the working yarn a tug, So those two stitches are separate and I can pick them back up now. And I'm going to pick them back up just kind of straight the way they are so you can see. Because we twisted them before we put them, before we knit them together, they ended up being twisted, and this last one is twisted on the needle. We always want the right leg of the stitch to be in front on the needle, and that's what we have here, but this one's backwards. So I'm going to twist that stitch back around so the right leg's in front. Let's do SSK again. I'm going to drop this stitch, give it a tug. I have 2 live stitches there. Quickly pick them up. And I have the first stitches mounted correctly, and this one's twisted, so I'll give that one a twist back. Okay, not so hard. A little more difficult when you're working with really fine yarn. Now this last stitch is very easy to see. It's a PSSO, which means I slipped a stitch, I knit a stitch, and then I kind of bound one stitch off over the other, which means I definitely have to drop this and pull and make those 2 stitches live and pick them up. I'm afraid it's not as easy as knit 2 together, but because I didn't twist the stitches, neither one of them needs to be corrected in the mounting. A normal one, and then here's our PSSO again. Slide my needle out, give the working yarn a tug, and just slide those 2 stitches back up on the left needle. And hopefully, that would be a messy road I have to take back through in this example. Hopefully you're able to correct your mistake here to get back through everything you just did. That was a lot of tinking. Anyway, I hope that helps you and you're trying to correct a mistake without having a bunch of loose live stitches. Good luck.